There are two types of families that result in children basically becoming a surrogate spouse. A couple of videos back, I did one category, which is addicted or alcoholic families, and now I'm going to read the part that is about what they call dysfunctional families, and another term for this is basically codependent families. Mark, a 34-year-old successful attorney, has for years had many meaningful relationships. He now finds himself lonely and destitute regarding intimacy. Mark describes his childhood. I thought that I had the perfect parents. I was particularly fond of my mother because she was always there for me, to comfort me, and to talk. We talked about everything. Often she talked about my dad. I always felt special around her because she trusted me with personal information. My father was also an attorney who loved his work. He almost seemed more married to it than to my mother. But he made sure we had everything, the best clothes, schools, and whatever we wanted. It was hard to be angry with him. Besides, as a family, we seemed fine. We were invited to all the right places and said and did all the right things. We had strong ethnic traditions and followed them to the letter. There was never any overt family fighting or feuds. We seemed real close. Yet, I always found some time alone with my mother at our family gatherings. I always felt special after one of our talks. As Mark began to face the pain of his loneliness and entered therapy, he described his family differently. I had no idea that there were people who talked about feelings and problems directly. I was shocked to realize that my family was dysfunctional, but it was true. No one ever talked about problems except for when my mother complained about my dad. I never knew that in functional marriages, partners spoke to each other about their dissatisfaction. I thought that including me was my mom's way of making me feel special. I had no idea that my mother was seducing me because she was lonely. I also began to realize that my family's insistence in following tradition was an unspoken rule that said, "See, we are one big happy family, and don't anyone challenge that by talking about feelings or problems directly." It was our way to not rock the boat and to hide all concerns. Behind that mask was the loneliness both of my parents and I experienced. Since I had no knowledge as I grew up that it was okay to talk about feelings and problems, I never thought to question my mother's close relationship to me, even though at times it felt funny to be treated so special. Mark went on to describe how his family relationships, particularly the one with his mother, affected his quest for intimacy. I had many romantic, meaningful relationships with women. At times, I was involved with more than one woman. It wasn't until I began to question my family and see the system for what it was that I realized I had ended or destroyed one relationship after another because none of the women made me feel like my mother did, her prince or her knight in shining armor. If I did feel special in a relationship, that feeling usually wouldn't last long. Although there seemed to be many women interested in a prince to save them, the high or excitement with acting and being treated like one never endured. When the infatuation ended, I was faced with the reality of the person and the demands of real intimacy. So I would drop or destroy the relationship in search of the woman who would make me feel special forever. Of course, this never happened, and I became more lonely than I ever imagined I could be. I was desperate. I never dreamed this was the result of my family's system. This awareness was both enraging and freeing. Many people have grown up in families where there is no alcoholic, chemically dependent parent, or addict, yet the struggles for love and intimacy are similar. In fact, many of these families appear well put together, almost the ideal or perfect family on the outside. This makes it much more difficult to confront the past in an effort to find the roots of one's current struggles to grow and become healthy. These dysfunctional families have been described as codependent. Codependency is a dysfunctional pattern of living and problem solving, which is kept in place by a set of rules within a family system. These rules make healthy growth and change very difficult. Some of these rules are described as follows. It is not okay to talk about problems. Feelings should not be expressed openly. Communication is best if indirect, with one person acting as a messenger between two others. This is triangulation. Be strong, be good, be right, be perfect, make us proud. And then in parentheses it says unrealistic expectations. Don't be selfish. Do as I say, not as I do. It is not okay to play or be playful. Don't rock the boat. These rules, whether practiced collectively or not, make it difficult for people to be close or intimate. The desire to share oneself, such as feelings, thoughts, preferences, wants, and needs, becomes frightening. The family system's masks of perfection and idealism is threatened. These families, with their codes of silence, suffer from chronic tension and anxiety that lurk below the surface. Remarks such as, "You could have cut the tension with a knife," are not uncommon. Family members operating in these systems are usually relieved when nobody said anything, for fear of what happened. Quote unquote, I'm sure glad I got out of there before someone said something. Talking about feelings and problems helps resolve the tension. These families believe, however, that if they don't talk about problems, the tension will go away. Any sort of emotional bonding between family members is impossible as long as these rules are observed. Codependent families originate from marriages which operate in a code of silence. Even though there is no obvious break, healthy intimacy and sexuality will have no chance to grow. One or both partners will feel dissatisfied. Trapped by a set of rules which do not permit the healthy expression of feelings and problems, a parent can easily turn to the child to get needs met. This child lessens the parent's loneliness and helps the parent deny the breakdown inherent in a marriage built on codependent rules. It is easy to see how a parent can channel his or her passion and energy into the child, and how the child can feel like the parent's surrogate partner. For the adult child of a dysfunctional family, the task of seeing the family for what it is becomes difficult due to the family's rigid adherence to the idealistic or perfect image. To name the covert incest that went on is much more difficult. Yet, to break the walls of silence and denial is far better than keeping pain and suffering of being a parent's surrogate partner secret for a lifetime.